From Season 3, Episode 9 gave us a very big answer this week regarding one character, and I want to talk about it, so there will be spoilers ahead up and through Episode 9 of From. If you're not all caught up, save this video and come back later. So the Fromily seems to be split on whether Tabitha is actually Eloise or Tabitha is a reincarnation of Miranda. I feel like there is a point now that we've reached where there is enough clues that we have seen throughout the season to tell us that she is indeed a reincarnation of Miranda, more so than just the final scenes of Episode 9 this week. At the end of Season 2, Tabitha, with Victor, went to the faraway bottle tree that Victor's mother also was sent to because of Victor. There is a scene from Season 2 or Season 1 where Tabitha goes into Victor's room and recognizes a toy crayon figurine, and she says, "I remember this." And that is presumably a toy that Miranda gave to Victor when he was a child. Not only does Tabitha actually accomplish what Miranda could not, she makes it through the faraway tree into where the lighthouse is and gets to the lighthouse. The boy in white pushes her off the lighthouse and says this is the only way. And in this last week's episode, the boy in white tells Victor that the only way that they are going to figure things out is for themselves. That means that Tabitha had to figure it out for herself. He could not just tell her that she was a reincarnation of Miranda. Tabitha finds Henry, Victor's father of all people, and brings him back to Fromville a couple episodes later. And there are plenty of clues in there that tell us that she is connected with Miranda. When Henry hears that Tabitha tells him that she is seeing the same ghost kids that his wife saw 40 years ago, he trusts her and takes her down into the basement, and Tabitha recognizes a lot of the things that she sees in Miranda's paintings. This is the first thing that tells us even more so that she is more related to Miranda than actually being Eloise. Because do you not think that Tabitha, standing next to the wall of family photos, would not recognize herself as a child in one of the photos? Even if she was adopted, even if she was Eloise and escaped, she would still remember what she looked like as a child. She would know, hey, that's me. That didn't happen because she is not Eloise. Henry tells Tabitha that Miranda, on a specific substance, had hallucinations and visions of past chosen ones. Tabitha, who does not partake in those things, does not have a way to unlock certain things or memories from a past life the way that substance did for Miranda, who was able to see multiple versions of her past lives as a chosen one. And Tabitha tells Henry, I need answers. She is trying to find answers. She is taking the footsteps of Miranda. She did what Miranda could not do. She went through the tree and made it to the lighthouse to escape and bring Henry back for Victor. And that seems to be a greater process of all the things that is going to help everyone escape in the long run. And if you recall, when Victor was first remembering him and his mother in the root cellar the night she left him and never came back, he had forgotten Eloise was even there with them in the first place. And then once Victor did remember about his sister Eloise, it was found that she ran away to follow her mother a few moments later. But nothing in the entire series so far has explained what has happened to Eloise since she left the root cellar. In Season 2, when Victor and Tabitha are in the tunnels for the first time, when their connection is starting to form officially, Tabitha finds this suitcase from Miranda in the cave, and she sees a white dress, and she says something along the lines of, this is impossible, because she recognizes the dress. Tabitha, while she's at Henry's house, hears the bottles outside on the bottle tree, and Henry explains that Miranda made a replica of the one in a different town. On their way to that bottle tree, they get into a car accident, but right before, when they get into the car, Tabitha notices that the same song, Blue, by Joni Mitchell, is shared by her and Jim and Miranda and Henry. And again, that has nothing to do with Eloise or Victor at all. This has a parallel between two sets of parents that are so uncanny to the point where when Henry comes to Fromville in Episode 8, he checks Jim and tells him directly, this is what you should be doing. You should be listening to your wife because I didn't have that chance. The Kavanaugh and the Matthews families are tied together more than we realize, not only by that song, not only by the two sets of parents being very similar in a lot of their behaviors and traits, but by the two men who doubted their wives. Two wives who have a lifetime connection, whether they want to or not. And that brings me to Miranda's bracelet that Tabitha also has the exact same one of, that she finds inside Henry's glove compartment. Eloise did not make this bracelet, Miranda did. And just like Miranda gave it to Henry, Tabitha gave hers to Jim. and they both used their husband's shoelaces to repair it when it was broken. This bracelet was always the first clue that connected Miranda and Tabitha. We just didn't know it in the initial first couple seasons. It's not till season 3 when we see this bracelet in Henry's car that we can start to put the dots together and connect them to understand that her and Miranda are sharing a lot of similarities in their lifetimes. Now, I want to go back to this post I made when we first saw the dream that Tabitha had as a young child. Because a lot of people were like, oh, she's Eloise. That's her remembering being Eloise. That's not even the same actress, you guys. They keep the same child actor for Victor and the boy in white, so there's no reason they would need to change that for Tabitha's younger child self. And again, Tabitha would recognize her childhood self, even if she was adopted by a Spanish family, in Victor's family home on the photos on the wall. The little girl that plays young Tabitha is more than likely not Tabitha and what she looked like when she was a child. That dream is probably a memory that was left over from the lifetime before Miranda or even before that, because this girl was in Victorian era clothing, like 17 to 1800s clothing. There would be no modern day reason for a young Tabitha, even 30 years ago, to be inside Frumville and have that attire when you can see that Eloise clearly wears more modern clothes in line with the 70s. Now getting to Jade and what Jade tells Jim, Tabitha, and Ethan, he says, if it was always your fate and always your destiny to come here, then that means no matter what, you would have always ended up at that tree in the road. So why would it be Tabitha and Miranda's destinies as chosen ones to always end up there? Because nobody has set the children free yet, which is the goal of the entire plane of existence that is Frumville. Miranda failed, so she had to try again as Tabitha in a new life. And the person before Miranda failed and had to try again in a new life as Miranda. Jade has alluded to the fact that it's fate, but that fate is tied to echoes of past lifetimes. The reason that Tabitha recalls that dream as a child, if you look online, a lot of children between the ages of 2 to 8 years old remember their past lives somewhat vividly. There are plenty of stories about it in the real world. It happens, it exists. For an adult, it's harder to convince them of a past life that they once lived, which is why in this week's episode, Tabitha is going wild saying, this is impossible, because she is reliving the memories of Miranda. So to further expand on why she is Miranda, she has been acting so maternal with Victor this entire season since she came back to town. But it wasn't until they got to the root cellar, the last place Miranda saw Victor, that the memories and deja vu of her past life were unlocked. Episode 8, you can see her mothering Victor and comforting him like a mother would to be able to have him explain his actual true memories about what he saw in the basement of the church that day. If anything, Sarah has been acting like more of a sister to Victor, while Tabitha has remained very maternal with him the last few weeks. And in this week's episode, she tells Julie when she realizes that she's reliving Miranda's memories and how Miranda passed away in her last life, she tells Julie, don't touch me, but she lets Victor hold her hand because that is her remembering that Victor was once her son. And since Jasper, who is possessed by the boy in white, keeps yelling at Jade, it is presumable that Jade is also a reincarnation of Christopher now that we know that the boy in white does not like Christopher for not listening to him all those years ago. But when Tabitha hugs Victor in the root cellar at the moment that she last saw him in the previous life, that's when the deja vu sets in and her mind from her current life and her past life merge together, not Eloise's. Otherwise, they would have shown us Eloise's point of view when she left the root cellar, but they did not. Ultimately, I don't know if they are the children who poured their hope into the trees, like reincarnations trying to set their original spirits free from ever having to come to Frumville in future lifetimes, or if they're the adults who did those things to the children trying to make up for what they did to those kids and set them free in future lifetimes. But I do know Tabitha getting deja vu 3 different times in this episode, touching Victor twice and the root cellar, has nothing to do with Eloise and everything to do with Miranda.
It wasn't your fault. You were just a little boy.